$2 million project, 2.2, something like that, and that Caltrans is willing to put up as much money as they need to by doing a lot of the work in-house up to the $1 million mark. And the reason why they came up with the $1 million mark is because that fits into the local programs. And if it goes above that, if their participation goes beyond that, then they have to go to a higher level, and it will have to be programmed in the SHOP program. The SHOP program, the State Highway Operation and Protection Program, doesn't have the funding to support this. So it more or less is a project of opportunity, is the way I'd characterize it. The need has been established for some time. They're saying that they do have the monies to invest if it were contained to $1 million or less of their participation, and that leaves a gap of over $1 million for the county's participation. I had told my board in the past that this would be the kind of a project that I would consider, and I don't have any feedback from my own board, as something that we ought to consider partial funding. We don't have a lot of money set aside for these kind of projects, to help defray the cost should this rise to the top of the county's agenda and they want to proceed with it. It would be, if it were a roundabout project that Caltrans believes is the best project, I would go to my board and ask that we kick in some of the money. We don't have a lot of money, but it would help defray the cost. So that's where we're at this point. Caltrans has a project that they're just about ready to quit working on because they take it to a certain point. They have determined that their preferred project would be a roundabout. They know what the costs are. If it could come in as a local project at under $1 million of their participation, they're prepared to move forward. But if not, the project would be delayed probably for some years, trying to get it funded through the SHOP program. The alternative would be to try to fund it through the STIP program, and I've already stated a number of times I don't think that it's a very good STIP project. I'm not sure how much funding we're going to have in the future, and I guarantee there'll be a lot of competition for the STIP funding, should we even get some in the 2010. And you got to remember that we're not able to add things in the first 3 years. It'd have to be in the 4th year or possibly the 5th year. So even if you were going to secure STIP funding for it, it wouldn't happen until funds wouldn't be available to 2015 anyway. So or 14 at the earliest. So I think I kind of summed up everything I know about the project and where we're at, and this is clearly the county's priority. And the only I just want to say it's a project of opportunity is the only way I can say it. I don't know where it fits in with your overall priorities, but that's where we stand. Caltrans is willing to commit more than what they figure is their fair share. I know there's always debate about that, but they're willing to go up to $1 million on this, I think, $2.2 million project. And I think that's a fair representation of the history.
So, Mr. Down, in terms of the time frames on this, do you think it's imperative that the county use 1B funds as Mr. DeShield has outlined here? I mean, we're talking actually a small amount, the $400,000 actually, which is the current discussion piece from his director's report, or is it something that can wait till next fiscal year? I mean, I think it kind of comes down to that. My understanding from Caltrans is they'll announce the preferred alternative very soon and have a public meeting, and that'll be early '09. But they want to get it out to bid in late '09.
Well, they're only going to have the available money, is my understanding. It has to be committed sometime this fiscal year. Otherwise, their local program monies will go to another project, and they're not going to they're not going to leave the money uninvested, just like you're not going to leave money waiting for things to happen. So there'll come a point where they're going to say, okay, if this isn't going to be a project, we'll spend it somewhere else. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen.
So when do you think the county would need to commit then?
Well, I would think that you would have to commit it. I can see this process going on for another 2 or 3 months. I think you'd have to commit it sometime this winter in order to keep that particular project alive. I'm assuming that the 400 and some thousand you have is going to be for 2 quarters worth.
This distribution is all that's on the table for fiscal year 08-09 from the 1B program.
Okay.
It's 6.3% for whatever reason. I know why that is, but yeah. Also, my conversations with Caltrans is actually that they wanted to have a firm commitment by the fall of 09 because their plans are to bid in late 09, if you will. That actually gives us another fiscal year. However, I've got to state, I don't know when the state will distribute the next 1B payment. We may get this stimulus thing where they give it all to us here this